change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'll change it right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'll change it right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. 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 Do what I want to. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I just gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you, no. Know that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Know that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Let's not get this confused. Look at her and look at you. Yeah. She'll mess up your genetic pool, and I would never do that. I would just improve that. Know that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Know that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you, for you.
I don't know if I'm like more concerned or confused. That's the thing. It just doesn't make any sense. But why? Why would you do that though? Like,
I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel,
don't need to.
but
why?
the way she calls you happy
It just seems unnecessary.
before the altar alters you,
I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad.
and
Not
you'll
even.
know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Why haven't they said anything yet? Why haven't I said anything yet? Hold on. Alright. 2, 3. looking at you. Oh yeah, craving you like all afternoon. Someday I'll be getting a taste. Kiss ya from your tummy to your nose to your waist. Like eating a cake. Oh yeah, oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. Big pop on the tip of my tongue. You belong there like the frosting on a cinnamon bun. Oh yeah, I'ma eat it till it's making me young. Oh yeah, split me like an Oreo and dip me in a cup of your joe. Cause neither one of us is gonna taste as good if we're on our own. Falling like a skittle, I'll be filling up the palm of your hand. I'll be skinny dipping, feeling dizzy from your butt at the can. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through.
gotta be honest.
I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you, no. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Let's not get this confused. Look at her and look at you, yeah. She'll mess up your genetic pool, and I would never do that. I would just improve that. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you, for you.
I don't know if I'm like more concerned or confused. That's the thing. It just doesn't make any sense. But why? Why would you do that though? Like,
I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel,
don't need to.
but
why?
the way she calls you happy
It just seems unnecessary.
before the altar alters
I'm not
you,
mad about it. I'm not mad.
and
Not
you'll
even.
know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Why haven't they said anything yet? Why haven't I said anything yet? Hold on. Alright. 2, set. You know I've been looking at you. I know you've been looking at me, looking at you. Looking at you, oh yeah. Craving you like all afternoon. Someday I'll be getting a taste. Kiss ya from your tummy to your nose to your waist. Like eating a cake, oh yeah. Oh, whoa, I can't wait. I'm gonna be the snack that smells bad. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells bad. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells bad. The kid to your cat.
Good morning, everyone. Sana po ay naging restful and productive ang ating integration period and that all of us did well on our pre-finals. Fingers crossed. Nasa pandemic pa rin tayo, so I hope that you're safe in your respective homes. My name is Jech Audal, and it feels great to be the host once again in the Alternative Class program. This is my third time na for ACP, twice for ACP Online, and first, and hopefully not the last, at ADNU or our university campus. Pero mixed feelings pa rin. Kinakabahan, pero excited din. Ako kasi napaka-interesting, very relevant, at pang-international ang ating pag-uusapan ngayong umaga. Welcome to this webinar of Dynamism and Doubts, Understanding China's New Silk Road Initiatives and Southeast Asian Countries' Differential Responses. Let me begin by reminding everyone of our house rules. We urge that all participants turn off their microphones to avoid disrupting the speaker and other participants. Can't emphasize this enough as it does happen from time to time. You could, however, open your cameras if at all possible, as it's always nice to see familiar and also unfamiliar faces, lalo ngayong online setting. Malay mo, kasama mo si Crash sa ating ACP topic ngayon. Pero dapat focus sa discussion ng ating speaker. Huwag ipin si Crash, ipin ang presentation ng ating speaker. Okay? Also, please use the Zoom chat to communicate any questions or issues you have about the topic or the speaker. I would also like to inform everyone that we're also live on the official ADNU OSA YouTube channel. And of course, we encourage our YouTube audience to participate in the conversation by leaving a comment or question. And of course, we'll read your questions and comments later during the open forum. Okay, now to ensure that you receive your e-certificates for attending this event, please fill out the evaluation form that will be given to you, which is a link to the form at the end of this webinar. I need to reiterate this. Wait for the evaluation link before you leave the room at the end of the webinar. You cannot receive your certificate without completing the evaluation form. So please accomplish the evaluation form later. So at this time, I'd like to encourage everyone to come into God's presence for the opening prayer.
Eternal Word made man, immortal love made flesh, reveals the depth of God's love by sharing human life and death.
Our sins have wounded you, our faults have pierced your heart, those burned by pride and hatred. You love us unto death, O sacred heart of Jesus, O loving heart of God, such us feel us and make our hearts like yours.
you so much, Sir Joseph Gregoriano and the University Choir. I am pleased to welcome Father Roberto E. Vera, SJ, to provide the opening remarks to kick off this event. Please join me in giving him a virtual round of applause.
To our distinguished guest speakers, to our Ateneo de Naga University students, faculty, administrators, and staff members, to our dear friends and associates, Diyos marhay na aldaw po sa Indogabos. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome all of you to this alternative class program with its theme Cannonballs, Firing Up Dreams, Courage, and Action. My dear friends, we know that for yet another year, this alternative class program, and indeed our whole academic year, is being enacted in the context of the pandemic. The pandemic continues, and some can say it has worsened, and yet we press on. We press on with the work of education. We press on with the work of teaching and learning. And that is why I believe it is truly appropriate that we hold this alternative class program in the context not only of this very challenging pandemic, but also in the context of the special event we celebrate and commemorate this year. That is the 500th year since the conversion of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. We recall how Saint Ignatius, fighting as a soldier at the Battle of Pamplona 500 years ago, was wounded by a cannonball, his leg shattered. And with his long convalescence in the castle of Loyola, this became the avenue by which he would be brought closer to God, by which he would be converted, and by which he would found the Society of Jesus. As it was for St. Ignatius of Loyola, so it is for us today. If for Ignatius, it was the Battle of Pamplona and a cannonball, for us in this day and age, it is this pandemic and all that we have to bear, not only to survive, but to flourish during this time. And that is why I am indeed very pleased and happy to know of this talk and the many other talks that are being offered to you in this alternative class program. This finely curated set of topics and our amazing lineup of speakers show us what is indeed possible even in the midst of crisis. That if we are able to muster our dreams, our courage, and translate them into action, this crisis will yet show us the way to a better, more peaceful, more developed world. And so, my brothers and sisters, once again, I welcome all of you to this alternative class program. May this session and all the sessions in the ACP be an opportunity for us to flourish, to grow, to fire up our dreams, our courage, and action for a better tomorrow. Before we end, I would like to give my sincere thanks to Mr. Sunny Virtus and the Office of Student Affairs team for their hard work in preparing this ACP program for all of you. And of course, our sincerest thanks to all our wonderful speakers who give so much of their time and talent to enlighten us during this ACP. Once again, a warm welcome to everyone. Salamat po, asin, Diyos mabalos.
Thank you so much for your encouragement, Father President, and for giving. And before we get to our guests' much anticipated and introduction, let's take a look at this video about the alternative classes program's history. Let's all watch this.
Hello there, Athenians! Here is what you need to know about the Alternative Class Program, or ACP. The ACP is conducted every semester to provide college students with formative opportunities outside of their regular classroom routine and daily schedule in support of the university's uniquely Jesuit educational goals. Instead of attending their class for a particular period, students choose at least one ACP topic from among the offered webinars and e-workshops. Carefully selected resource speakers from different fields of specialization are invited to share their knowledge, skills, and inspire students to nurture their personal development and partake in social advocacies or causes. We thank you for your participation in the first ever virtual ACP last semester, which recorded an all-time high attendance turnout and received an overwhelmingly affirmative evaluation from students. Because of the ACP's affirming results and positive impact, we are continuing with a bigger and better ACP. However, the program shall still be carried out via digital platforms to ensure everyone's safety. The theme for semester's ACP is Cannonballs, Firing Up Dreams, Courage, Action. This theme is inspired by the conversion of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, founder of Society of Jesus. Just as Saint Ignatius was hit by a cannonball, which altered his life and drew him to a greater calling, this ACP hopes to fight up university's call for students to have dreams, discern, and find ways to accomplish these dreams. To do this, ACP offerings are carefully chosen to be relevant to the current times, formative, and mission-driven. The webinars and e-workshops hope to start a conversation on one's life in the pandemic and the varied factors that affect it and facilitate personal and even community reflection and discernment. Who knows? These virtual activities could fire up meaningful cannonball moments in you, their students. At the end of the webinars and e-workshops, the ACP hopes for the following objectives. First, acquire knowledge and/or skills that are relevant to one's interest, talent, skill, passion, or advocacy. Second, relate to share the learning and insight gained from the topic or activity in one conversation or dialogue and personal reflection. Third, examine the importance of one's interest, talent, skill, passion, or advocacy to the development of the society. And fourth, seek ways or opportunities by which the gained knowledge and skills can be further advanced and used for the benefit of the immediate organization community or larger society. For now, we would like you to listen to the speakers sharing and take part in the conversation. Dream, have courage, take action, and don't forget to learn and have fun while we experience ACP Athenians.
Okay, now for the moment you've all been waiting for, allow me to introduce to you our honorable guest speaker. Our resource speaker for today finished his AB Communication degree, major in Media Studies in 2009 here at Ateneo de Navarra University. In 2013, he obtained his master's in Public Management degree at the Ateneo School of Government, Ateneo de Manila University. From 2014 to 2018, he received the prestigious ASEAN Scholarship Grant for Senior Administrators and earned his PhD in Public Administration, major in Administrative Management at the Huazhong University of Science and Technology in Wuhan, China. Currently, he is the Program Director for for the Master in Public Administration and Master in Business Administration cluster, and the Deputy Director of the Center for Local Governance in ADNU. He is an Associate Professor of Political Science in the same university, and a visiting fellow and lecturer at the Chinese University Summer Schools Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our distinguished speaker for this morning's webinar, Dr. Marshal Q. Murillo. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Ivan, sa napaka-generous na introduction. And welcome and hello po sa ating 300 plus Zoom participants. So maraming salamat sa paglaan nyo ng oras to listen to our lecture this morning. And I hope there are more listening via OSA YouTube channel. Maraming salamat po. Let me now share my PowerPoint. Sana nakapag-almusal kayo, ano? Kasi I think matatapos ang ating lecture a little before the lunch time. So I don't mind that if you guys are chewing your merienda or morning merienda while listening to my lecture this morning. Okay? So Ivan, okay na ako mag-start, ano? Should I start now? Right?
Sure.
Okay, sige. So the title of my I'm sorry I know this is ACP, but I will say it's still a lecture, but I'll try my best to package this in a not so typical classroom setup. No, I will not call someone to recite because that's how I normally do things, no, in my class, especially in political science, because that's part of their discipline to be critical in several issues. But now let me present you this particular topic in a more like light, candid as much as possible, and more on storytelling. And I will also include some of my insights into it, including some empirical studies. That's why the title of my lecture this morning is Of Dynamism and Doubts, Understanding China's New Silk Road Initiatives and Southeast Asian Countries' Differential Responses. Before tumaas yung kilay ninyo, baka sabihin ninyo napaka-nosebleed naman po ito. Sa madaling sabi, let's try to understand the dynamics of our region, the Philippines and Southeast Asia. At the same time, ano yung nangyayari sa China, at ano yung motivation nila to introduce a particular project, and that is the New Silk Road Initiatives, o yung goal ng China, to connect some of the Asian countries, power Asian countries, and unite as one. So that's actually their ambitious. So let me begin now my presentation by talking about first, saan ang galing yung termino na Silk Road, So I don't know how many of you have heard the term Silk Road. I don't know in senior high school kung na-introduce siya sa history ninyo. But ako, kung maaalala ko, parang hindi sa amin inintroduce yung Silk Road. Pero yung Silk Road, para siyang yung sinaunang forma ng globalization ng mundo. It started at Xi'an. Xi'an is the old capital of China, and then it extended, humaba siya patungo sa West Africa and even parts of Europe. So masasabi mo talaga that this is the ancient type of globalization. So obviously, when you say trade, naiisip mo agad yung samut-saring produkto ng iba't ibang bansa, particular ng China, at ng mga ka-trading partners nito, So, but more than that kasi, meron pa silang ibang inintroduce. Kasama dyan, halimbawa, yung mga religion, Halimbawa, yung mga values, yung mga pamamaraan kung paano makipag-usap, kung paano makipag-trade yung mga tao. Alalahanin natin that during this time, wala pang common language, So they basically communicate using their quote-unquote common sense, And some of them just turo-turo, di ba? Ganon. So nung unang panahon, yung Silk Road, kasama dito, sinabi ko na nga, yung China, Afghanistan, India, Central Asia, kung hindi nyo alam yung Central Asia, remember those STAN countries sa Central Asia. You have the Kazakhstan, you have the Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and so on and so forth. No? And then you have Iraq, you have Iran, you have Syria, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and then Egypt and Italy. No? So talagang mahaba siya. Kaya siya tinawag na Silk Road dahil pangunahing pinaka-premium na product na ini-introduce sa route na ito ay yung silk ng China. Because again, sa West, no, kapag meron kang silk, ibig sabihin, mayaman ka, burgis ka, di ba? So, and China is the major producer of silk, no? So, during that time, and even until now, right? So, yung mga naglalakbay dito hindi lang limitado sa mga traders or merchants. May mga independent travelers, no, yung mga gusto lang mag-explore ng iba't ibang bansa. So sa ganitong klaseng ruta, sinusundan nila yung Silk Road, yung independent travelers. And then you also have diplomatic envoys, no. Ibig sabihin, yung mga bansa na gustong matutunan yung pamamaraan ng pamumuhay ng ibang bansa, they also traveled in this through this route, no. At nabanggit ko nga na hindi lang products yung na ipagpapapalit nila, no? Kasama na rin dito yung relihiyon. No? And that's why the pious pilgrims are also the ones utilizing, no, the Silk Road route during these times. So travel sila from one sacred place to another. Diba? At hindi lang natatapos doon, no? Hindi lang sa produkto, hindi lang sa paniniwala, hindi lang sa religion, no, dumadalo o nabubuhay yung Silk Road, no. Unfortunately, kasama ng ganitong pagpapalitan o yung exchanges ay yung mga sakit, no. Nagkakaroon ng papalipat-lipat, no, yung mga viral infections and also pandemic happen, no. So parang we are living, no, we're repeating the history because we are currently in a pandemic, diba? So same thing, no, because that's inherent in globalizations, no, the exchanges and the free flow of trades and goods as well as values, no, are really inherent, no, in a very interconnected world. So in other words, ancient Silk Road ay nagpapatunay lang na connect na tayo, no. So yun nga lang, ito ay ang history ng Silk Road was preserved, no, sa history ng China. Probably and definitely there are a lot of versions of this history from other areas of the world or parts of the world, but definitely this is why internationally we call it Silk Road, no. Ngayon, fast forward a little bit, we have a different definition of Silk Road, no. At tignan niyo yung mapa, no. Kung makikita niyo yung mapa, hindi na lang na nakapirme yung ruta sa land, no, because obviously back in the day mas accessible ang land even until now, no, but not anymore because you have the maritime, diba, areas, no, and that's why Silk Road is, later I will discuss this, no, has been transformed into several pathways, no. You have the maritime, you also have now the digital, no, because we are now in the current trend of fourth industrial revolution, and that is digital revolution, no. So that also means that China also have to envision a digital Silk Road, but later we'll talk about that. Pero mas gusto kong tutukan muna, no, yung konteksto ng China. 'Di ba, parang sa mga pelikula, if we have to introduce characters, we also want to know their context, 'di ba? Kaya kung tingin mo man sa kanya ay villain or protagonist, you also are curious, no? Saan ba siya nanggagaling? Bakit lubos siyang makapangyarihan? Bakit masyado siyang pang-api, for example, or masyado siyang progressive, no? Or masyado siyang mabait? Saan siya nanggagaling? And that is why I want to start, no, the first part of this lecture or conversation by getting to know the driver. No, kasi sa kontekstong ito, mukhang ang China, sa usaping ito, ang China ang driver. So let's get to know more about the driver. I'm curious if you can use the raise hand react. How many of you have been to China? Can you raise your hand? Sabi mo, sir, walang participation. Let me see how many. Okay. For those who raise their hand, can you comment a little now your impression of China the first time you stepped foot sa China? What was your impression? Were you amazed by by the buildings, by the culture, food, etc., etc.? So can you please candidly share to us your comments? No? I'll read them a little later. Okay, so ang China ngayon, alam natin, no, nababalitaan natin na sobrang aggressive in terms of partnership, in terms of trying to quote-unquote share the resources sa iba't ibang bansa, and along that is their influence to some of the domestic policies, di ba? Pero hindi naging madali ang ruta, no, ng China, naging ape sila noong unang panahon. Siguro mas papalalimin ko siya by starting this off with a thought experiment, no. Have you heard of the thought experiment? Para lang ako magkukwento, no. So halimbawa ganito, no. Let's try to imagine this. It is now 2050, okay? And then Europa, no. Once the wealthiest and the most advanced civilization on Earth, right? And but it's now showing signs of decrepitude, meaning almost collapse. No? So, but again, millions of tourists, flocks to museums in Paris and Rome, but the modern world is passing it by. Its technology is outdated, easily surpassed by innovations from China. The European Union's once mighty economy is now sinking. Yung mga inhabitants niya are addicted to social media, and they rely on state handouts, meaning propaganda. And then you also have other external threats. Islamist rebels establish a vicious Saint Caliphate, halimbawa in London. And then the authorities, those in power, supposed to be in power, are struggling to put down these rebels. And then 20 million people died and lost their lives, in trying to mitigate and live their lives. So there's actually an ensuing carnage during this time. And then fast forward 100 years, from 2050 to 100 years, Europe is in tatters, right? They're basically burned to the grounds. After nearly 2 decades of war and occupation by the US, its former ally. And then another 20 million Europeans lie dead. China, which put an end to the war by firing, say for example, nuclear missiles at the US, become the supreme powerhouse, or supreme. They reign supreme. And now Europe is now but a minor player in the global order, led by Asia-Pacific nations, kasama ang Pilipinas. And then, but its effective capital is in Beijing. So for Europe, they vowed to a new form of government. So they try to rebuild their smoldering continent as a quote-unquote communitarian utopia. Yet the global superpower China is still hostile. So the People's European Union hunkers down, shutting its doors to the world. That's it. That is our first thought experiment. If you listen to it carefully, dystopian siya, di ba? So it sounds like a horror film. But this kind of approximation and imagination or narrative actually is an appropriation of what happened in China between the start of Opium War. So itong kinukwento kanina, nangyari sa Europe kung saan trinidor siya ng kanyang former ally, yung naghari-harian sa buong mundo ay hostile sa kanya, so pinili niyang magsarili muna at subukang i-rebuild yung kanyang bansa. But along that was millions of people died sa iba't ibang insurgencies, domestic wars, and so on and so forth. And the war lasted for decades. So that happened to China. That is why importante para sa atin siguro na alamin yung konteksto ng China, no? So yun, no? So I know if you guys are careful with your history, no, alam na natin siguro yung nangyari sa Opium War, 'di ba, na gumante ang UK at nagpasabog, no, ng kanilang pinasabog yung mga iba't ibang yung mga produkto ng China and so on and so forth. And also that includes what happened to Hong Kong, no, na it's part of the agreement that they have to own Hong Kong for a meantime, and then, you know, but current insurgencies in China continue to happen, and their longest ally, diba, Japan back in the day, betrayed them, quote unquote, betrayed them, and also attacked them. And so much so they became what the Japanese imperial or the Taiping imperial force was the reason why there were so many abuses and carnage, or yung pagpapatay sa mga Chino na umabot sa 20 million according to international journal, but the projected numbers of Chinese government is around 35 million. So you can imagine how they were, quote unquote, obliterated, no, by different forces, no, international forces. So yun ang nangyari, no. Kaya nung umalis na ang Japanese, 'di ba, sa China, unti-unting nag-rebuild ang China, hanggang sa i-close niya literally ang kanyang pintuan sa iba't ibang activities ng mundo, right? So that's why at some point in our history, China was called the sleeping giant, right? So, but I will not bore you with so many details about it, because I think you can go back to your history lessons about it, no? But the context there, talagang dapang-dapa ang China, no, nung panahong ito, yung kanilang former ally na Japan, no, kasi 'di ba sa history natin, may tatlong may little brother ang ancient China. You have Vietnam, you have Korea, and you have Japan, because they share the same concept about the world, no? Even until now, no, the Confucian world, no, yung pag-aaral ni Confucius, no. I know some of you quoted Confucius in some of your PowerPoint presentations, because talagang catchy naman talaga yung mga quotes ni Confucius, no. So itong nangyari sa China ay isang napaka-significant, no, sa kanilang aspirations na bumawi. Kaya naman, na mga sumusunod na taon, no, na 1950s, ang pinaka matunog na slogan sa mga Chino, no, ay yung never forget national humiliation. They were humiliated by the world. We were once progressive country, economically we're rich, no, but because of these chaotic situations and other unparalleled views, no, they become kawawa, no? So they were really humiliated. So you have this slogan even until now in China, the Wu Wang Guoqi, no, it's I never forget national humiliation. In fact, there's a specific week and day in China where all the Chinese students just have to listen and watch a documentary about how Japanese abuse them, no, in their ancestors, no. Talagang yung sabi namin ng mga foreign students na kasama ko noon, na parang kapag ito yung araw na dumating, yung mga Japanese exchange students o yung mga Japanese scholars, medyo nagtatago sila. No, biro lang namin yon. Nagtatago sila kasi baka batuhin sila ng Chinese students, no. Obviously that's exaggeration, pero talagang merong ganong araw sa China kung saan they basically tell the students that these abuses. Sa kadahilanan na para hindi makalimutan yung nangyari sa history, di ba? Dapat ito'y parte ito ng ating pagkakakilanlan, that we were once united as a nation, no. We fought with our enemies, no. We won eventually, etc., etc. So China must never forget, because it can never be humiliated again. China must never forget because the pain of humiliation must spur national revival. Sabi nila, sa ganitong klaseng parte ng history, dapat tayo mabuo. So kumbaga kung ikaw naman ay humahanga sa isang bansa na buong-buo, parang ito 'yon, di ba? Pero for other people, no, parang ang hirap niyang gawin, no. The closest counterpart of the Philippines of this is the never forget, di ba? The hashtag never forget, hashtag never forget Marshal, for example. But even that particular issue, kahit domestic siya, di ba? We're not even united about it, no. So we're happy that Athenians are very vocal about it, that we are really pushing for history awakening, di ba? So never forget, no. So in China talagang they imbibe it, no, hindi lang sa salita kundi sa gawa. Why did I say so? Because naging parte siya ng kanilang national anthem, ng lahat ng mga speeches ng kanilang mga dignitaries kapag pumupunta sa abroad, at sa lahat ng kanilang mission and visions, even those private sectors na wala na halos impluwensya ng Communist Party of China. So andun sabihin talagang na-imbibe nila yung ganung sentimiento. Sa kanilang national anthem nakalagay pa nga yan, no? Let's build our new great wall. The people of China are in the most critical time. Everybody must roar his defiance. Arise, arise, arise. Diba? So ganun siya. So what, sir? Why are we talking about this? Because this is the whole context of their slogan, their working and functional slogan, Chinese dream or my dream. Chinese dream, Zhongguomeng or Wodameng. The Chinese dream is also my dream. And that little girl there sa propaganda, what can you notice? No? Mataba, medyo hindi siya nakasmile sa picture na yan, pero nakasmirk siya, no. At ito yung symbol nila ng Chinese dream. And halos lahat ng mapupuntahan mo may makikita kang ganitong klaseng posters, or for some people propaganda, no. And then this particular girl here is a symbol of Chinese aspiration, na malusog lang tayo, na mataba tayo, na happy tayo, no. And itong babaeng ito, I think she has a name, I just forgot, pero sa mga train stations nagtuturo siya ng mga values, nationalism, honesty, no, friendship, etc., etc. So para ang strategy ng China is really to have a very unified values, no. At hindi malayang mangyari 'yon because people are appreciating this, even if they don't know much about the context of it, no. Even me, I was so amazed as a teacher of public administration. I was so amazed by how united they are, no, in terms of values. Pag tinanong mo, ano ibig sabihin ng Chinese dream? Most of the college students, they understand and they can even recite what exactly is the context or the story behind the Chinese dream. And yun, no, at talagang kahit sa mga klase nila, kahit sa mga essay paper nila, talagang nakalagay ito. In fact, sa China, kapag gumagawa ka ng essay, isa sa mga hack nila is sa anumang klaseng essay na gawin mo sa school, try to insert the values of Chinese dream. Most likely, your professor will give you a good score. No? So, kumbaga sa atin, AMDG, lagyan mo yung 1/4 sheet of paper mo. Sasabihin nila, baka lagyan ka ng plus point ni teacher. But for Chinese professors daw, if you include the values of Chinese dream into any of your essay, basta hanapan mo ng paraan, kahit math man yan, kung may essay part man dyan, hanapan mo na ilagay yung Chinese dream. Most likely the professor will smile and give you a good score. No? And even to some scholarship grants pa daw, kahit sa mga masters and postdoc applications, kapag nilagay mo yung values ng Chinese dream and yung my dream mo, kapag nilagay mo yung convergence nila, then most likely you will get a good chance to get the scholarship, for example. Okay. And obviously, sino pa nga ba yung mag-operationalize ng Chinese dream kundi yung pinaka-presidente o yung pinaka-makapangyarihang tao sa China kung hindi man sa buong mundo? Why did I say so? Because Xi Jinping is currently the president na pwede siya maging president kung hanggat kailan niya gusto. Why did I say so? Because in China, just a quick Chinese government one-on-one. China is ruled by a party, right? The communist Chinese Communist Party, right? Or the CCP. And currently he's the chair of the party. So kung ano man desisyon ng party, ang gagaling dapat sa kanya. And siya pa yung presidente ng China. No? So obviously indefinite ang kanyang role, no, as the leader of China. And unlike the US, for example, that they have to elect, no, every 4 years, no, midterm election, and then the election after that, no. So 8 years lang yung max, di ba? And for other countries like our 6, di ba? But for Xi Jinping and China, now it's indefinite. It became a big news in China when the CCP declared that he will be the president for indefinitely. No. So kaya madali sa kanila na i-engineer o i-operationalize yung Chinese dream. No. According to Xi, kalagay dito, great rejuvenation of Chinese nation. So it's our time, tayo naman. No. So parang ganun sa kanila. So this particular Chinese dream is not only happening o nangyayari domestically. Obviously, dahil sobra kang mayaman at sobra kang makapangyarihang bansa, you also want that your environment o yung bakuran mo, 'di ba, makapangyarihan din. So that's the reason why he introduced, no, or the party introduced the Silk Road Initiative or the new Silk Road Initiatives. Galing pa rin doon sa pinakasimpleng na hindi na tayo mayu-humiliate, na dapat sabay-sabay tayong maging progressive. But breaking news, no, may mga domestic problems ang China, no? May mga accusations ang Western countries that China is vina-violate yung human rights ng mga tao sa Xinjiang, no? Yung another part, yung Muslim-dominated part ng China. And also, 'di ba, sa China, illegal ang mag-promote ng isang relihiyon. No, ibig sabihin, if you're Catholic like us, 'di ba? If you want people to go to your church, 'di ba? Sometimes you provide brochures or leaflets. In China, they have a law na kapag ginawa mo 'yon, automatic makukulong ka. No, so you cannot promote your religion, but you will be allowed to have a church in a particular area. So ganun sila kahigpit. Saan sila nanggagaling? Because again, isa sa mga hindi na pagkasunduan noong panahon ng Opium War ay isa sa mga dahilan ay yung relihiyon, no? Na-impluwensyahan ng relihiyon ng mga tao para mag-revolt, no, against the Chinese government. So using that in the current aspect, diba, a current situation, it's almost the same context. No? Ayaw nila na ang anong hindi political makaka-impluwensya sa political na activities. And that's how serious they are. No? They also have zero tolerance for drugs. No? If nahuli ka na may marijuana, kasi may mga Chinese na pasaway pa rin, na meron silang code for marijuana. They have a very special code na para hindi ma-detect sa kanilang mga phones. No? So they also have those kind of powers. So in other words, they're really strong domestically and they want to also project a strong influence abroad. No? So ganun siya. Ang dami ko nang sinasabi. No? Ganun siya. Ito lang naman sinasabi ko, no? Yung philosophy niya na Chinese dream. Translate niya eventually dito sa kanyang adhikain, no? Or sa kanilang adhikain na palakasin ang ekonomiya at kasama nga doon obviously sa mga nag-aaral ng international relations, no, ay yung pagpapalakas din ng militar because if you have a powerful military output, then most likely, no, you can gain control of some areas or territories at least within your no. So what does it mean if you're economically developed country? That means you have a wealth, di ba? So ito yung arrow na nakalagay dito. So if you're powerful economy, a powerful economy will play for the strong military required for self-defense. And China promise that they will never be invaded, they will never be occupied. Alam natin yan because that's how they argue, when they release commentaries about our assertion of the West Philippine Sea during the Pinoy administration. And bakit mahalaga ang military strength para sa iba't ibang bansa gaya ng sa China? Because obviously it legitimizes the nation. For China, it's the party. Kapag malakas ang aming military, that means malakas din ang aming party at seryoso kami sa mga adhikain namin. Seryoso kami sa aming mga initiatives. Why is that so important? Because again, back in the day, yung namuno si Deng Xiaoping, yung sinasabing unang nagbukas ng China sa mundo, ay may simple at very direct na gustong mangyari sa China. Sabi nila, tayo bilang bansa, maglaylo muna tayo sa foreign affairs, and let's try to concentrate on getting our own house in order. And they were very successful with that. In fact, paunti-unti, hindi sila aggressive noon, pero paunti-unti silang nag-welcome ng mga leaders mula sa iba't ibang bansa. And guess what? The first Filipino president na pumunta sa China ay si Marcos at nakipag-handshake kay Deng Xiaoping. At si Imelda, si Madamong Imelda, pinagmamalaki talaga niya. Even until now, nakipag-handshake at hinalikan yung kamay niya ni Deng Xiaoping. And only few leaders can say that, na pinapasok sila ng China sa kanilang bansa. Because they're very selective with partnerships. Kasi nga, careful sila. That is so different with how China is now. They introduce obviously new models of great power relations, and they become more active, proactive role in Asia. Kasi ang gusto naman nilang sabihin is that tayo naman bilang sa Asia ang mag-assert ng ating kapangyarihan sa mismong lugar natin. Yun ang gusto sabihin ni Xi Jinping sa haba-haba ng kanyang speeches na bakit sa Asia ang naghahari-harian yung mga western countries, Bakit hindi tayo? Bakit hindi ang mga regions natin, and so on and so forth. That is why China took a very assertive step, to really push for this. And how did they translate this later? I will talk about it. Initiatives, and that includes the New Silk Road, And they introduced the neighborhood policy na sinasabi nila. Again, you have perhaps a different insight about this, that kung yayaman kami, yayaman din kayo. So we have to have this kind of neighborhood diplomacy. But obviously, in international relations, di ba, syempre gusto mo mas marami yung benefit sa'yo kaysa sa benefit nila. But again, that's a model. That's just a model. But definitely, what Xi Jinping is telling us is that gusto ko sa pagyaman namin, aangat kayo. Diba? So parang ganun yung gusto niyang, ayun ang narrative na binibenta niya every time nag-a-attend siya ng meeting sa iba't ibang lugar sa China, sa Asia, kasama ang ASEAN region. And then sinasabi niya, let's make more friends, make more quote-unquote friends. But when you ask some of my international classmates, sabi nila, huwag ka maniniwala sa ganyan. Kapag Chinese na nagsabi ng make more friends, that means may gusto silang hingin sa'yo. But I have a different opinion because I do have a lot of Chinese friends. But on the level of the government, this is something that has to be taken with a bit or a grain of salt. Huwag tayo masyadong maniwala. But obviously, pakinggan yung kanilang i-offer. So ito yung promise niya, let's forge a community of shared destiny in Asia. Ito sabi niya pa, ito yung sabi ko kanina, mission is to return China to what he regards as its natural, rightful, and historical position as the greatest power in Asia. Diba kasi may Sino-centric na ang China ng pinaka-sentro ng mundo. And so on and so forth. So now, how will China operationalize that kind of diplomacy, kind of foreign policy, proactive foreign policy? At pangalawang tanong, how will China's proactive foreign policy work? Diba? Well, ipapakita ko lang muna ito, prelude sa mga detaling sasabihin ko. This was a picture taken by me in December 2018. At actually may 19 pa yan, at may 17 pa yan, pero hindi ko na nahanap. But the point here is that, what is the difference between these two pictures? Ang pinaka-significant na pagkakaiba nila is the blue sky. December 18, napaka-blue, like gradient blue ng Beijing sky. And then a day after that, and the 20th of December, just 2 days after, balik siya sa kanyang quote-unquote default na sky, which is smoggy, and so on and so forth. Why? the context here is that sa panahong ito, sa araw na ito, may mga foreign dignitaries na bumibisita sa China na may mahalagang agreement na pagdidesisyonan, no? And obviously, if you are parang guest, a host, di ba? You want to make sure that your house is really clean. No? And how is that even impossible? Beijing, no? Ang daming factories around Beijing and within Beijing. Ang daming mga schools na and so on and so forth. So that will give you really naturally quote unquote naturally a smoggy sky, di ba? Kasi nga develop di ba, sa Metro Manila, halos hindi mo makita yung blue sky, no? Pupunta ka lang ng Batangas or Cavite para makita ng blue sky, but definitely sa Metro Manila, smoggy, no? But sa Beijing, capital of China, how is it even possible to have a blue sky, di ba? So, ang ibig lang sabihin nito that we can do whatever we want, even in our own country. We can shut down factories, we can close schools just for you guys. In other words, parang siyang jowa mo na handang gawin ng lahat para lang mapasaya ka, para lang mabigyan ka, no? May pakita sa iyo kung gaano kanya kamahal. And that's how effective sometimes China is, no, to its partners, no, even in ASEAN countries. Talagang papaniwala niyan because nga they walk the talk, sabi ng BTS, no, they walk the talk na that this particular initiative. This is what they call the blue magic in Beijing, the BBB, blue magic in Beijing. BMB pala, sorry. Blue magic in Beijing. And the foreign dignitaries, even the critics, even the journalists, no, and media are so stunned by this, like, wow, Xi Jinping is really powerful and China is really trying to project that they are really can do something, no? So yun ang nila, yun ang kanilang ano. Tapos a day after, wala na, no, balik sa dating gawin. Tinisyoran ko siya, binalikan ko yung Tiananmen Square, ito yung parang Malacanang ng China. At bumalik nga talaga siya sa kanyang dating itsura, smoggy ulit, populated ulit, no? So we have to wear mask again, no? Kahit wala pang COVID noon, no? Kasi default yan sa Beijing eh. You have to wear mask talaga sa Beijing, no? So one of the policy foreign policy of China is as I've mentioned, yung pinakabago is yung Silk Road Initiative or SRI. Ang SRI, alam niyo na to, no? I have to skip this part. Okay. Oops, bumagaling internet ko. Okay. Yung China, the China's Belt Road Initiatives, you have, at first pala, dalawa lang yan, no? You have the land, no, or the Economic Belt Initiative, and then you have the Maritime Silk Road Initiative, or the MSRI. And dahil imposibleng matapos ito, lahat, we'll just focus on the Maritime Silk Road Initiatives. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng bansa sa Southeast Asia, di ba, ay konektado sa land. No, we also have by seas, no. But still, no, you have that. There's no reason for China not to extend its influence. No, Maritime Silk Road talaga tayo, sabi nila. No? So, how did South, ngayon ang question naman, diba, nalaman na natin kung ano yung paraan nila para paganahin yung foreign policies ng China, no? Alamin naman natin ngayon paano nag-react o paano nag-respond ang Southeast Asia, no, kasama ang Pilipinas, no? That's why my question the question is how did Southeast Asian countries respond to China's ambitious development plan and foreign policies, no? Ito again kasi nga we only have limited time. I think Ivan should also remind me of the time, baka over na ako dito. I don't mind to be interrupted, ano po. Yung development plan is very, very ambitious kasi imagine mo, if you go back to if you go back to the map, gustong i-extend ni China ang kanyang influences at partnership sa iba't ibang bansa, di ba? You see here the blue one. Okay. Yan yung sinasabi natin ngayong 21st century Silk Road Hub o yung initiatives ng China na palakasin ang kanyang partnership with other countries, bilateral. When I say bilateral, 1:1, hindi yung 1:2 7 countries or 11 countries. So it's a bilateral. Yon, no? And then sa pamamagitan ng paano pagbibigay ng loan, no? Infrastructure, no? At marami nito ngayon sa Southwest Africa. Marami mga African countries ngayon, kasama yung mga kaibigan ko, nagtatrabaho sa mga Chinese firms, no? At nung simulang inintroduce ang Chinese Dream ni Xi Jinping, dumami ang iba't ibang infrastructure projects ng China sa iba't ibang lugar sa Southwest Africa. And even now, no, sa Southeast Asia, dumadami na din. No? You have the ones in Cambodia, you have the ones in Thailand, well, a little bit in Thailand, and then you have Laos, di ba? And then recently sa Indonesia na sobrang katakot-takot na kontrobersya ang hinarap nila because pinatigil, sinimulan, pinigil at sinimulan ulit tapos pinigil ulit. No? So we will look into that. No? Ano ba yung mga naging desisyon or responses ng Southeast Asian countries dito? No? I just want you guys to take note, utang. No, this is not like a dole-out project. Okay. You're my partner, bibigyan kita ng building, pagawan kita ng building. This is utang. No, this is utang. So obviously, walang masama sa pag-uutang. It's just that you have to also assess as a country whether you can actually pay for it, di ba? Napakasimple lang naman yun, no? Pero yeah, let me go there a little later. So yun ang ambitious development plan ng China. 'Di ba? Remember, as I mentioned, meron silang neighborhood policies na pag yumaman ka, mayayaman kayo. So sabay-sabay tayong yayaman dito. Ganun ang kanilang assertion and values. No? So, ano yung promise niya? Let me just give a simple overview about it. Greater connectivity. Kasi kung meron tayong partnership, hahayaan mo akong dumaan sa area na yan at hahayaan din kitang dumaan sa area at tayo ay smoothly magpapalitan ng produkto, services, and even technologies and talents, di ba? So basically same with the ancient Silk Road. It's just that it is done in a more advanced and technological manner, di ba po? So and then you also have it also promised an increased trade and investment. So mag-i-invest kami sa inyo, kapalit nito trabaho sa bansa ninyo, project sa bansa ninyo, pagpapalago ng inyong mga produkto, etc. etc. Hindi lang ito nangyayari between government and government po, no? Nangyayari din po ang mga small initiatives within private realm or sectors, no? Halimbawa nito, yung Digital Silk Road initiatives ng China o yung iba't iba pang initiative. Halimbawa, yung 11-11 shopping na ba kayo? No? So yung technology ng Lazada, ng Shopee, was also modeled from the Alibaba or Jack Ma's technology, no, sa China. So that is also part of, not per se the Digital Silk Road initiative, but also part of their way of extending their influence, in this particular case, technology. And what do you say? Probably more, because again, di ba, parang kung hindi pa kayo close ng isang tao, tapos pinautang ka na niya, mag-iisip ka, type ako nito, crush mo ako, no? Or probably more than that, no? Obviously, hindi yun ganon. Parang hindi naman ata type ni or ni China si other country. No? Siguro may mas malalim pang dahilan. No? But again, that has to be proven, no? Because we have to be very scientific also in analyzing these intentions. No? Kung walang pruweba, then we only have assumptions, di ba? So ganon. Now, this is I'm going to the second to the last part of my presentation. Titignan natin kung paano nag-respond ang Southeast Asian countries sa inisyatibo ng China. So this is the overview. There is a study from Xiao Fengzheng. Xiao Fengzheng is a scholar from Oxford. He studied in Oxford. He published several articles about international relations and particularly Southeast Asia. And even when I was still studying in China, I've read some of his papers. No? And in fact, some of my papers are inspired by his analysis. No? So here, we can actually divide, no, yung sa tatlong tier, no, yung responses ng China and ang responses ng Southeast Asian countries. You have tier 1, you have the strongly supporting one. Sabihin, sinusuportahan nila wholly, buong-buo ang inisyatibo ng China, ng Maritime Silk Road Initiative. Tier 2, you have the supporting, pero may strong reservation. So, supportahan kita, pero handali lang. I have to make sure that I am agreeing with it. So, that means you're not fully on board with agreement. No? And then you have the tier 3, no? Yung pangatlo, no? Strongly opposing it. Basically, no thanks, parang ganon. No? And then I have to remind also that there's also swing states. Ibig sabihin, sa period ng isang taon, supportive siya, then at some point, hindi siya supportive. So maaaring sabihin natin merong 4 na classification, yung responses ng Southeast Asia. Supporting it, not supporting it, and then you have reservation, and then you have swing states. And then let's now position the countries. So you can see here, sa left ko, support, the tier 1. Then sa opposite ko, no, yung oppose, di ba? And you guys are familiar with the flags of Southeast Asia? So you have, for the support, you have the Cambodia, you have the Laos, you have the Thailand. And then at some point, as I've mentioned, Malaysia, at least under the Najib administration. And then you have the support with reservation. No? Suporta kami pero hindi masyado muna. We have to weigh our options or other initiatives offered by other countries. Kasi meron namang ibang inisyatibo ang ibang bansa na medyo kamukha ng Maritime Silk Road Initiative ng China. So you have, for example, South Korea, you also have Japan, and you also have India. No? So, pero they are willing to support. So you have their countries like Singapore, Myanmar, you have the Brunei, Darussalam, and then you have Indonesia. And then the most interesting here are that almost pareho ang kanilang paninindigan tungkol sa MSRI. No? And that is Vietnam and the Philippines, at least under the Pinoy administration. And we know why, di ba? Because nagsampa ng kaso ang Pinoy administration, no? And sa lahat ng mga succeeding initiatives ng China, talagang napaka hesitant, no, ng Aquino administration. So you have two, no? You have Vietnam, you have the Philippines. Both of them are characterized by the different administration. So before the 12th Party Congress in Vietnam, oppose sila, pero after mahalal or magkaroon ng bagong posisyon, nagbago sila. They become, di naman totally opposite, like support, but they all become more supportive of a particular initiatives, or in this case, the Maritime Silk Road initiatives, together with the new administration, Mahathir, administration. So then in Malaysia. So, since we have limited time, I'd like to focus on the dynamics of these countries, no. And then I will highlight obviously the Philippines, no. Kasi for obvious reason, alam natin, di ba, yung mga pagbabago sa iba't ibang bansa. Perhaps you will ask me, sir, paano measure yung support, yung ano yung indicators to gauge the degree of support, no? If you're curious, kasama po sa pag-measure dyan, yung symbolic gestures, no? And yung concrete measures. Anong ibig sabihin ng symbolic gesture, sir? Yung pabeso-beso po ba nila? And so on and so forth. Hindi naman, no? It's basically their symbolic. Halimbawa, this is the actual indicator that used by Xiao Fengzheng. Una, kung yung top leader o yung top power holder, meaning yung presidente o kung sino man yung nagdidesisyon para sa bansa o yung nag-design ng foreign policy, siya yung may support, di ba? So if he or she has voice support for the MSRI, that is symbolic gesture. If nag-attend siya ng Belt and Road Initiative Summit in Beijing in 2017, yung a year before the picture, na pinakita ko, yung blue and gray sky. So if nag-attend siya, that's a symbolic gesture. No? And then, if the state also signed a guiding principles on financing, no, the development of the Belt and Road Initiatives. Kasi when you agree to a particular well, sa madaling sabi, kung nag-agree ka sa isang inisyatibo, kailangan pumirma ka sa mga guiding principles para lang maunawaan ng China kung naiintindihan mo ba yung sinasabi mo o yung pinasok mo. So if the president or the representative of the country signed the principles of financing development of BRI or the Belt and Road Initiatives, automatic kasama siya, counted siya doon sa symbolic gestures. And yung last is, if you are a founding member of AIIB or the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Ano po ito? Ito yung bangko na magfa-finance ng mga infrastructure and other development programs ng China. So utang ito. So tayo sa Pilipinas, we are a founding member of AIIB. So automatic, in that particular indicator, we checked that already, at least during the Duterte administrations. How about the action? Ano yung concrete actions? Ito na yung hindi symbolic. Ito yung parang you really, if you really signed an intergovernment cooperation. In other words, talagang you're about to initiate a program already. No. So intergovernment, so Beijing and Malacanang, Beijing and Manila signed the contract, trying to link the plan of China's MSRI and the development program of a country. Halimbawa, in Philippines we have a development program 2017-2022, di ba? Tapos na pala siya next year. And then if we incorporate that initiative of China into our development program, that's already counted as concrete measure, di ba? And then if you also allow China to set up halimbawa industrial park or a special economic zone within your boundary, then that's obviously a concrete measure. Another one is if you recognize that a particular project is constructed and will be built by Chinese government or Chinese private organizations, that's also concrete action because you already allowed it to happen, and so on and so forth. So yun din yung mga indicators kung paano na measure ni Xiao Feng-tseng yung itong support, oppose and so on and so forth. Kaya malinaw na talagang nag-shift tayo sa Pilipinas. We pivoted to China in terms of our policies, in terms of our infrastructure and development goals. Makikita po ninyo yan sa ating mga development programs ng ADB na na-publish sa ADB, sa NEDA and so on and so forth. May mga mentions ng Chinese government po doon. So talagang it's there, It's our case is almost similar with Vietnam, Talagang nung una hindi muna because same, malakas din sa Vietnam yung sentimiento ng anti-China. Meron din kasi sila talagang malalim na girian, hindi lang sa teritoryo kundi sa mga abuses sa kanilang sa bansa nila ng mga Chinese military. So umabot pa nga sa nagpatayan yung mga militaries nila at nakunan ng video, at obviously this made the Vietnamese conscious about the quote-unquote war, or yung girian o yung barilan. So doon nagsimula iyon. Then paunti-unti, gaya ng Pilipinas, naglaylo ang kanilang, hindi naman tumamis agad, pero nawala yung sobrang bitterness ng kanilang relations. At ito ay nakita sa mga agreements na pinasukan ng Party Congress, the 12th Party Congress ng Vietnam. So ayun, kaya from totally opposed to now supporting it. But how come, sir, with reservation? It's because of some apparent oppositions coming from the non-government entities. So the people, the citizen, and also other organizations. So halimbawa, that is why we can consider, at least in the study of Xiao Feng-tseng, that the Philippines, together with Vietnam, are the swing states. We have a very inconsistent policy toward MSRI. There's nothing wrong with being consistent, especially if you are trying to be careful with the initiative of China. But in terms of our response, to the foreign policy of China, we are very inconsistent. So we are at one point, we are extreme, no, before the recent change of leadership. And then that time we were very distrustful. We rejected China's initiatives. And then after a change in leadership, both countries, Vietnam and Philippines, become more open and engaging with MSRI. But yung sinasabi ko nga, yung opposition voices remain very strong. At alam ko napapansin niyo yan because sa social media, samot-sari din naman ang mga memes towards China, especially after during the pandemic, di ba po? So at malaki ang tulong ng society dito sa pagpapabago or sa hindi pagpapalakas ng partnership ng China at ng Philippines. So in other words, our government, the Duterte administration was also very hesitant and cautious, about jumping really fully, into MSRI. At least what we're talking about here are the documented ones. We don't know what's happening at the back door. I have to put a disclaimer because that happens in government, na hindi siya nami-media, hindi siya na isusulat, pero may mga nakikipag-usap na sa mga Chinese, halimbawa lang Chinese investors, Chinese organizations, or even government. So, and especially now, election is about to happen, malapit din ang role na ginagampanan ng mga backdoor workers na sinasabi. So I cannot mention names, but I just want to put it there because it's a possibility. And historically, it happened. DM me, if you want to know some chika. I'll be willing to be the marites of you guys. So but it happens po, So ito lang naman kasi because we are scientific here, we just want to measure the ones that are documented. We want to measure the ones that are very evident and can be validated. So yun, with the case of Malaysia, same thing, Nung nagbago ng administrasyon, nagbago din ng kanilang pananaw sa MSRI, and they basically actually it's from support to downgraded to from fully support to support with reservation. So parang ganun, parang teka lang, we have to review it, So parang opposite tayo ng China tsaka ng Malaysia. From total support to support with reservation. So yun, in other words, Vietnam and the Philippines, we have a mixed feeling towards China, di ba, and MSRI. And that is because why are we so supportive about it? Aminin na natin, we need money. We need money to ramp up our infrastructure and other development programs. Kung may papautang sa'yo para magpatayo ng bahay, tatanggi ka ba? Especially kung nangangailangan ka talaga, kailangan mo ng bahay at hindi mo na afford magrenta ng bahay. Di ba madaling sabihin na kailangan mo? But in this particular case, we have to emphasize the importance of good governance. Sa anumang klase ng desisyon, sa anumang klase ng proseso ng pagdedesisyon, mahalaga na transparent po ang ating gobyerno, na transparent po ang ating sektor tungkol dito sa mga agreements na ito. Kaya madalas, importante at napakritikal na mga ginagampanan ng mga diplomats natin, ng mga NGOs, ng civil society sa pag-alam at pagsuri ng mga pinapasukang kontrata ng Pilipinas. Ito na po yung sinasabi ko kanina. The swing state. Okay? Okay. I'm almost done. So now what, sir? Now that we know this, ano naman ngayon, ang ano natin, ang gusto nating mangyari dito? Well, una sa lahat, magandang malaman kung ano yung lumabas sa pag-aaral na ito, sa pagsusuri ng iba't ibang responses ng iba't ibang bansa, particular ng Southeast Asia, sa programa or polisiya, foreign policy ng China. We can cite four outcomes, you can say outcomes or realizations, sige, mas madaling sabihin, realizations from this dynamism. You have first, it validates, not really validates, but it confirms that ruling elites in these countries are really prioritizing wealth creation, no, because if you are prioritizing wealth creation, you will most likely be supportive of the MSRI. And that is evident in the case of Cambodia and Laos, that they are really aggressive, in terms of promoting MSRI, in talking to their people that we need this investment, that we need this infrastructure. So, but again, you have to look at the context. Who are these people deciding for their countries? These are normally ruling elites. So elite legitimation, according to Xiao Fangzheng, was very evident, in this dynamism. Siguro pag may magtanong na lang siguro, but kasi sa International Relations 101, 'di ba? Importante na yumaman ka muna, 'di ba, bago ka magpalakas. So in other words, sometimes money first before power. May mga modelo naman sinasabi nila na pwedeng magsabay yung dalawa. But meron mas malakas kasi sa kasong ito na nagpapayaman muna sila, at sa pagpapayaman nila, they want to make sure, that they are in partner with a strong force. In this case is China. So sino nagsasabi nito? These are the ruling elite. So ruling elite are the one taking all, the benefits of partnership, and that is wealth creation. Walang masama sa wealth creation kung ito ay inclusive. Ang sinasabi kasi sa mga report at sinasabi sa mga pag-aaral na madalas yung wealth creation nangyayari lang sa mga nasa taas, di ba? Especially in this type of partnership. So in other words, if the ruling elites are the ones leading the country, obviously they will support the MSRI. So that is elite legitimation. I can expound on that, pero we don't have much time anymore. Pangalawa, yung trust in public opinion. So yung trust in public opinion are very determinant on the type of collaboration that the country and China will have. So obviously, if the countries if a country has a higher degree of trust of China, they will be more supportive of China's MSRI. And obviously, in contrast, diba, yung countries with a low degree of trust will be more indifferent or or suspicious to China, diba? And that is why mahalaga din pag-usapan dito yung konteksto ng trust sa konteksto ng democratic institutions, di ba? At face value, democratic institutions generally will allow more public participation in policy process, di ba? As opposed to autocratic institutions that they will just decide. So if the country is democratically functional, they will allow people to participate in policy process. They will listen to the people about their view on the cooperation or the potential cooperation. So, kung ganun ang mangyayari, most likely sinasabi nila that the people will be hesitant to participate in this particular collaboration. And although we don't have a concrete measure for trust in some Southeast Asian countries, kasi wala naman talaga ngayong available data about that measures trust, but we can use yung mga concerns ng mga tao sa MSRI, as a measure. Halimbawa, kung ang tao tingin nila na yung utang na manggagaling sa China ay magbibigay ng mas negatibong impact sa kanila, then they will not be supportive about it. Lalo pa sa Pilipinas, because we have issue against the Chinese government about the maritime dispute, di ba po? And then we have another, yung mga simple case studies abroad na if you take this loan, most likely mababaong ka sa utang, And with the dynamics of Philippines right now, na medyo kailangan natin ng pera at ang laki pa ng utang natin, po? So trust and public opinion also a factor that will shape the collaboration of these countries. Leader ideology, obviously the preferences of leader has a strong impact on the country's foreign strategy, and as I've mentioned, the societal resistance may make it difficult for a country to embrace the MSRI. And yung social resistance, malakas ito sa Myanmar. So madali na po akong matapos. Ito na po yun. Last na lang ito. Ayan. Just to give you a glimpse ng partnership ng China at ng ASEAN countries during the pandemic, mausbong pa rin siya. No? It's still there's still a quote-unquote partnership. Nangungutang pa rin tayo sa China. Ang Pilipinas ay umutang sa China ng milyon para sa ating pandemya. That's the reason why our government is very supportive of Chinese-produced vaccines. No? So, but the policy implications of this analysis are very clear. If China wants to make its initiative a success, obviously it should change its past practice of paying little attention to opposition parties, to NGOs, and civil organizations. So it has to redouble its effort to address those concerns and also improve the trust. And it also needs to be pointed out that Southeast Asian countries' responses to China's MSRI are undergoing constant changes. At sa darating na eleksyon, mahalaga ang magiging pinuno natin, kung sino magiging pinuno natin sa magiging takbo ng relasyon ng Pilipinas at China. No? Kaya ngayon pa lang, inaanyayahan ko kayo na tignan yung mga policies, yung mga programa o yung mga plataforma nila tungkol sa partnerships, hindi lang sa China, kundi sa ibang bansa. Because again, as this particular presentation tells us, talagang mahalaga ang preference at ideolohiya ng leader ng bansa sa pagpapausbong ng partnerships na nakasentro sa interest ng hindi ng mga ruling elites kundi ng mamamayan. And these particular changes obviously will change over time in domestic politics, in rising nationalism, and obviously the ups and downs of other strategic rivalries among big powers, US and China, and so on and so forth. So, in other words, yung storya ng Maritime Silk Route initiatives continues to be written, and it obviously warrants a continued attention from us, from you guys, kasi tayo po ang magmamana ng resulta ng ganitong klaseng collaboration. And thank you for listening. That's all. These are my references.
Okay, thank you so much for the interesting and thought-provoking presentation. I hope our participants gained insights and learnings on how to be critical with the country's issue, especially with international relations. Before we proceed, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Rebecca Torres, Executive Assistant to the University President. Good morning po, ma'am.
Hi, Ma'am Beck.
Okay.
I didn't know you're watching pala. Did they overtime, okay, Ivan?
Di naman po, sir. Okay naman daw
Okay.
po. Hanggang 12 naman po yung expected time po natin. So, within the time pa rin po.
Okay. I'm just like reading some of the comments of the people here. Do you have open forum ba or reactions?
Yes po, sir. We'll proceed to that now.
Sure.
Okay po. Okay, as we mentioned, we now move on to the open forum. And of course, we encourage you to send your comments and questions to Dr. Marshal. It's either you can press the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. And also you have the option to send your questions in our Zoom chat, which some of our participants have already done, which is thank you so much to them. And of course, to our YouTube audience, if you have, send them right here and we'll read them for you. Okay, and to those who are still constructing their questions or messages, let us welcome our first reactor for this webinar, Sir Al Florence Alvo.
Hello, am I audible po?
Yes po.
Okay. Before I start my parang reaction, I just want to commend Sir Marshal. It's been a very wonderful and a very comprehensive discussion of yung sa current foreign policy ng China and what has been the response of Southeast Asia. Siguro, a few reactions or few like insights into it. Like siguro one thing that was very unique about the discussion is parang for the first time we heard the unique storyline ng China on kung bakit yun yung parang naging actions, decisions nila on foreign relations or international relations under kay Xi Jinping and under the current administration. Parang we were able to get that insight na yung concept ng national humiliation on China na parang gusto nila makabawi in terms of like proving themselves once again that they can be like yung from the term of Sir Marshall, yung parang sleeping giant and in other news that I read, parang sinasabi rin ng parang the awakening of the dragon daw in terms of how China is acting right now. Parang the idea of how China was embarrassed by the Opium War, citing rin yung mga examples ng Boxer Rebellion, yung invasion ng Manchuria ng Japan during the Second World War, yung the Siege of Nanking. That was very parang maybe those were antecedents on how the concept of embarrassment is a Chinese nationalism was an instrumental factor in terms of making those parang how did China arrive right now in its current situation. Parang if in a parallelism, if like I was able to read kasi yung concept ng Wolf Warrior diplomacy, yung parang yung mga Chinese foreign ministers, like they're very provocative in terms of like, they even very provocative sila on responding to some of the claims, like for example from the US, China as well. Saka siguro po yung second reaction is parang I was very interested dun parang sa tiers of like support sa China. So parang may question sa akin on whether this can like effectively polarize South the ASEAN. Kasi like, di ba, meron tayong concept of ASEAN integration. So maybe the question is then, can China be like a unifying or a mitigating factor? Or a unifying or a breaking factor pala in terms of like, how ASEAN tries to like picture itself as a unified group. Pero yung insight rin is parang sinabi ni Sir na at the end of the day, all Southeast Asian nations want money to like fund their funds resources. So maybe that can sufficiently answer the question. Siguro like, if I have a question siguro in terms of representation, siguro like we already know that there's a rift or tension between US and China or the West. And significantly, parang the US is also interested in Southeast Asia. Like just a few weeks ago, President Biden met with the ASEAN leaders. So if yung tanong ko, sir, is parang what has been the response siguro of the Western or liberal democracies sa actions ng China in ASEAN. So yeah, thank you po.
Should
Okay,
I
thank you so
answer
much.
now or?
Yes, sir. How would you react to that?
Yeah, thanks,
Question
Al. As usual, you have a very good reaction, ano. Well, let me just first talk a little bit, about the ASEAN. We were never united. No, in terms, in my own opinion, I'm sorry, I have to put it there. As an observant of ASEAN nation, we are united in terms of the documents, in terms of our aspirations, no. But historically, ASEAN kasi ang hirap natin mag-unite. Why? Because there are so many external factors that can explain that. One is the influence of China to other country, the influence of US to another country, and the country trying to be neutral. So technically, in a model of international relations, it's hard to unite if you're already diverse in terms of your view. Mag-unite lang tayo, parang sa Avengers, kung may iisa tayong kaaway. But the problem there is we don't view a specific quote-unquote rival. Ang pinakamalapit, sabi ng isang author, I forgot his last name, but sinabi niya na parang ang pinakamalapit sana is yung dispute ng South China Sea, or which I prefer to call it West Philippine Sea. Yun sana yung parang uniting factor natin. Sa wakas, magkakaisa ng Southeast Asia because meron ng parang isang malaking issue. But then again, we were not, di ba? Who backed up our claim, no, to South China Sea, di ba? Iilan lang, no? At yung iba pa nga hindi pa parte ng Southeast Asian nations or member states, no. So isa yung napakasakit na realidad na parang historically mabibilang mo lang sa isang kamay yung nagsama-sama tayo at nag-unite tayo bilang isang region sa isang sa isang issue, no. Pangalawa, ang China and US relation will always be an exogenous factor to any collaborative or endeavors that we aspire as a nation. Talagang andyan yan. Tayo pa, no, sa Pilipinas pa. Kasi we have a long partnership with US, and now with Duterte, we have regaining, no, the collaborations with China since Marcos. Kasi si Marcos talaga yung nagbukas ng upuan para makipagkasundo, no, at iba pa sa China, no. So but ngayon kasi you have to understand that that multilateralism is perhaps the brand that we are trying to achieve, no, that's the idea, I think, at least for some Western powerhouse, no, that we try to move back to multilateralism, but the reality is we are still in a populist and an inward-looking policies, no. So meaning we want to like ayusin mo natin yung bahay natin. Hayaan mo na muna siya dyan. So that's why in this particular context, madalas nananalo yung mga populist leader, no. So ito yung dahilan, no. So and this particular trend this political trend, the rising populism, separatism, and geopolitical tensions will remain. I'm not kasi in the business of future of foresight, yung panghuhula. But if the trend persists, most likely the next 3 years we will still experience populism. But ideally kasi ang maganda sana to address this particular division is yung multilateralism. And hindi fan ang China ng multilateralism. He wants to have, as I've mentioned, bilateralism. No? Multilateralism sa mga aspeto like climate change, no, business trade, no, and so on and so forth. But sa mga issue ng infrastructure, for example, they prefer it bilateral. That's why when Pinoy administration filed a case, no, sa Hague, no, na-offend sila doon. Parang dapat mag-usap muna tayo, dapat kinonsulta nyo muna kami before kayo naghain ng kaso. So sa kanila, as I've mentioned, napahiya sila. In China, they have a value of mianzi. Mianzi is like save face. Kung papagalitan mo ko, wag sa harap ng publiko. Hatakin mo ko sa gilid ng room at doon tayo mag-usap. And China values that even in their culture. Na halimbawa, pag pinagalitan ako ng thesis advisor ko, hindi ako pagsasalitain or sasabihan sa group chat, kundi sa different group chat namin. Parang gano'n, ano? And China has that strong value. So pahiyain mo ako, I have a way to backfire. No? I have a way to retaliate, for example. I can detail this pero wala na tayong oras, eh. No? Salamat, Al, for that really good questions. No? So those realities and contexts are very, very important before we jump into a particular assumptions kasi. No? Kaya magandang tignan din yung konteksto ng China, ng relationship ng US and China, at ASEAN and China. I wish I can read all your comments. Where is Ivan? What is your take about China's MSRI as Chinese money trap to control our country eventually? Ang problema kasi there are already evidence that this is indeed a quote-unquote Chinese debt trap. No? Kasi halimbawa sa Southwest Africa, talagang nabaon sa utang yung mga African countries. No? Kasi madaling sabihin kung gano'n ang pag-uunawa natin. But again, you have to understand the context. Anong klaseng government yung namalakad o nag-facilitate ng project doon sa Africa? And some of the critic will also say na dahil yung gobyerno kinurap yung pera, kaya hindi nabayaran ng maayos yung utang sa China. So, will you actually do not get that information? Di ba kailangan 360 degrees ang ating evidence, di ba? It's easy to say na baka yung kontrata ay overpriced and so on and so forth. We have indicators that can actually prove that. No, we have brilliant economists that can say that this is overpriced, this is not overpriced. But ako naman, sa pagtingin sa isang proyekto, if it is a money trap or debt trap, we also have to understand our infrastructure, our structure of government. how good are we in terms of facilitating these loans? Kasi sinabi ko nga, walang problema kung mangutang tayo. Ang problema ay kung mangutang tayo ng mangutang, pero yung perang dapat pambayad sa utang ay hindi natin nagagamit ng tama. So dapat pag kumikita ka, dapat paunti-unti, di ba, nagbabayad rin sa utang mo. So that can facilitate well our economic development. So ganun po yung answer ko kay Ma'am Valerie. Ayan, back to you, Ivan. I'm sorry.
Sorry po, sir. Sudden internet problem. Nasa
Can I read Miss Elaine Cabiles comment, Ivan?
Yes po, sir.
Yes. Sabi ni Elaine, hi
Can I-
Elaine. She's my student in Pol Sci. I remember Justice Carpio's lecture about South China Sea's dispute. And there's also mention that Chinese people, ever since they were young, has been taught the narrative that China SCS or South China Sea is part of their territory. In this lecture, it was mentioned how China's national humiliation is a big driving force towards convincing the peoples about the importance of China's initiatives, such as MSRI. It's fascinating to see how national narratives are a big driving force behind China's unity. It also makes us realize that China as a state will never be benevolent towards the interests of other countries, such as ours. As a country, they are staunch in their belief that their country's actions are justified. In the issue of South China Sea, MSRI, etc., they believe that it is their right. Kasi kung merong bansa na hindi benta yung West narrative, ito ay China. So pumunta ka sa China, pag yung mga critical na estudyante yung kadebate mo, they will bring you to the context of history, to the beliefs and values of China. Ibang-iba sa atin. Because we were actually sabi ng mga observers sa Pilipinas, you are the little America of Southeast Asia. Do you agree with that? I kind of agree with that because kultura, pananaw natin, at even our model of governance, di ba? Parang talagang copy sa China. No? But obviously, we value democracy. We value policy process, participatory policy process. No? Pero may good thing and bad thing about it. No? Nationalism, again, is something that is very, very important dapat sa Pilipinas at sa kahit anong bansa. Diba? Ito yung unifying force. At some point in our history, we were united. Imagine the elite, the Indio, as they call it, no? We were united against the Spaniards. No? So mahalaga siya. And it brings more benefit than cost to the country. Diba? So ganun siya. That's why sometimes mahahanga ka din kung paanong buhay na buhay yung nationalism sa dugo ng mga estudyante. No? Pero sana yung nationalism na to not at the expense of other sovereignty. Para mas maganda sana, di ba? Pero that's how geopolitical thing works kasi, di ba? Palakasan ng assertion, no, patibayan at pa-unitan ng tao. Salamat, Elaine, for that very good insight.
Thank you so much to our participants. Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much, sir, for proceeding with the program, even with sudden interruption.
That's
Okay,
all right.
now our next question is from Rojan Pado. How does the Belt and Road maintain societal stability in China exactly? Is inquiring to Sir dun saan.
What does it mean?
Belt and
The domestic? Anong klase? Ano yung tanong niya?
He asked how does the Belt and Road maintain societal stability in China?
Well, with or without the Belt and Road Initiative, I don't know how you define stability. China is developing. He declared itself as a developing country still because hindi pa sila developed talaga, sabi nila sa kanilang indicators. Pero hindi ko alam yung stable na concept, no. Pero let me just answer it in this way. Marami ring domestic problems and issues ang China. You have from my perspective, there are also some human rights violations, no? And probably I'm saying it because I have a different lens about human rights, no? And then there's also the inevitable, no? Yung rich and poor, yung gap ng mayaman at mahirap ay meron pa rin sa China. But some indicators in China said that Xi Jinping, this is a very wide argued narrative that Xi Jinping lifted Chinese poor people from poverty. And when I was a student, nung estudyante pa ako, naghanap ako ng ebidensya, di ba? Kasi PhD student back in the day, naghanap ako ng ebidensya to prove that narrative. No? Obviously, I cannot accept only the papers provided to me by my professors, no? Kasi figures will tell you na talagang yumaman ng China, yung mga mahihirap, yumaman in terms of their GDP, in terms of their in terms of employment, unemployment rate, etc., etc. So what I did, obviously this is a very sociological approach, no, qualitative. I visited some of the palengke. And then sabi ko, how's it in Chinese? How are you guys doing? So before na andito kayo sa city, Wuhan yan by the way, sa Wuhan. Before kayo nasa city, saan kayo galing? Saan po kayo galing? Kami ay magsasaka. Ganon. Sabi ko, ang alam ko, mahal yung pwesto sa palengking yon. It will cost you around 100,000 pesos every quarter to pay a small space. Sabi ko, how can you afford po the space? Kasi magkano ng bangkita sa pagbebenta ng gulay, no? Kasi gulay yung binibenta niya. We got the subsidy from the government because we used to live in a rural area, farming land, no. But the government paid us, no, binigyan kami ng pera, and we're talking about millions pesos para lumipat sa city at doon maghanap buhay. So ito pong pagbebenta namin ng gulay ay racket lang po namin, no. Pero masaya na po kami na meron po kaming napag-aral, meron na po kaming bahay sa city. And sabi niya, lahat po kami dito nagbebenta, halos same ang story namin. We came from rural area, our land were subsidized and we were given housing to stay in Wuhan and to find and make an employment here and so on and so forth. So para ma-amaze ka. Then I went back to my professor, sabi ko, gino-joke ba ako ng mga nagbebenta ng mga gulay sa palengke? These are their millionaires. Sabi niya, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, those people who are selling vegetables in our campus are millionaires. No? So because they got the subsidy from the government, but it's not lump sum naman na binigay. So but meron sila sa bangko na makukuha from the government. So that kind of infrastructure, that kind of policy will somehow make you agree that yes, that the Chinese government has a mechanism or has a scheme to really prove that yes, we can lift poverty. So, ibig sabihin lang, sa madaling sabi, ang yaman ng China. Di ba? Imaginein mo yung nagbebenta sa talipapa ng mga kangkong ng pechay. Milyonaryo. But we're not talking about naman the mga bangketa, di ba? The one in the stall talaga. So, pero even then, di ba, it's hard to imagine that dating magsasaka na a vegetable vendor is a millionaire, no? A millionaire, and they have a quote-unquote stable livelihood, no? So gano'n, no? If that stories and cases happen in some areas, not just in Wuhan but outside other cities, you can actually confirm that yes, the claim of Xi Jinping that he lifted the Chinese poverty from this percentage to this is something that is supportive of some evidences, both numbers and stories by these people. But again, numbers and monies are different, no? Because we're talking about here holistic. No? Ano yung kapalit no? You don't know. No? I have something to say about it, but because we have limited time. So, but ganun lang. Yun yung parang, if you focus on that indicator, the stories and numbers, no, then you can say that yes, they're making sense. No, they're making sense.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And from Sir Rojan Padoy for your question. Now I will be reading an insight or say advice coming from Dr. Oras. Let's learn from history. Foreign debts enriched the dictator Marcos and brought corruption to the highest level, leaving our country in poverty. To prevent this to happen, if we support MSRI, needs a very vigilant citizenry and leader who is incorruptible. Imperialism, whether Western or Asian, will always benefit the imperialist. MSRI is an Asian imperialism. How would you address that, sir? Do you agree to certain extent?
100%. 100%. That is why do not
Yes.
undermine history. Because history tells us a set of a probable reality, no, in the future. No? But again sabi ko nga, MSRI is just one of those initiatives that we will be encountering, no, kasama sa globalization yan eh. Kapag yumaman ng isang bansa, meron silang gustong programang ibigay o ibahagi sa kanilang partners, di ba? Pero walang masama kung tatanggapin o walang masama kung magiging inconsistent sa pagtanggap o hindi pagtanggap nito. Ang importante yung facilitating process. No? Ano ba yung proseso? Sa pagtanggap ng initiative na to, are we utilizing the principles of good governance? I have to keep emphasizing this. Are we transparent with the transactions? No. Are the leaders responsive to the comments of the NGOs, experts, and civil societies? Kung lahat yun ay yes, then what's wrong with taking these programs? No? Kaya nga mahalaga sa pagpili ninyo ng leader, di ba? Na yung kandidato may kakayahan na i-facilitate yung prosesong ito na match sa principles ng good governance, transparency, participatory, responsive to the actions called by the NGOs, experts, and civil societies, because these people are after all part of good governance, part of governance, di ba? So kung ililimit mo siya sa mga elitista, sa ruling elite, then we have the same problem over and over again, di ba? So mahalaga, kritikal ang magiging presidente ng ating bansa dahil obviously in the Philippines, ang presidente ang major designer ng foreign policy. Thank you, Ma'am Bex, for that insight.
Sige po. I believe this is now our last question from Valerie. What is your take about China's MSRI as Chinese money trap to control our country eventually?
I think Ivan, I answered that already. It depends on it depends on the agreement. It depends on obviously the numbers involved in the contract, and also more importantly yung infrastructure ng governance. No? Kung ang gobyerno ay corrupt, kilala sa corrupt, obviously mababaon ka talaga sa utang, no? So tanggapin mo man yan or ano. No? So yeah, it depends on really how you facilitate loan and how you and your economic managers will handle those contracts. Maliwanag dapat kasi na malinaw siya sa sectors.
I think we can end instead with an insight coming from Ms. Alicia Marie Fajardo. It is interesting to know about the way China would entice their people to believe and follow what they want. How they use nationalism to unite their people and control them at the same time. I believe this is the part of your lecture, sir, where you had the propaganda.
Let me there's a slight disclaimer. May mga Chinese scholars na nag-aaral sa ibang bansa na iba rin ang kanilang pananaw pagbalik nila sa China. So some of them, they can be very extreme po, no? I don't like the word control. No, they can control the information in China, but I think still the people's mind in China are still kind of like diverse, no? So some of them are really patriotic, so much so that they will say yes to all the decisions of the party. Or Xi Jinping's party, but there are still some who are deliberative. There are some who are still liberal, and as I've mentioned, yung iba na nag-aral sa ibang bansa at bumabalik, dalawang bagay lang yan. No, babalik sa pagiging patriotic sa China, or pangalawa, meron siyang baong modelo ng Western world, for example. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that is something that China should also embrace. No, but again, kasi malakas kasi sa China yung hugot niya na dapat magkaisa tayo, and by means of magkaisa, No? Paniwalaan nyo yung values at yung policies ng bansa natin because after all, this is all for you. So, but there are more and more students, especially now, they are open to social media. Kahit block yung Facebook sa China, they can still access information from the West, di ba? So, kanya-kanyang diskarte. So, no-open sila sa iba't ibang opinion. So, I personally don't believe na madaling makontrol ang mga tao sa China. It's just that siguro hindi sila assertive gaya natin sa Pilipinas sa pag-criticize ng kanilang government because that means probably their lives and their loved ones' lives. But yeah, if you talk to them individually, usapang bar, usapan sa over beer, they have very insightful opinions about the government and the way how government facilitate the processes. Thank you,
So much.
Elisha. She's my former student ata.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Murillo and Ms. Alicia for your wonderful insight. And that's it. Thank you everyone who participated in the open forum for your questions and insights. We would also like to thank Dr. Murillo for his generous time and expertise in this ACP webinar. Anyone who has participated in this program has certainly learned something useful that can be applied to future pursuits. To thank our resource speaker and his willingness to accept our invitation, we would like to present to you this Certificate of Appreciation. Citation read, the Office of Student Affairs at Ateneo de Nava University, in cooperation with the Office of Mission Identity, presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Marshal Q. Murillo, in grateful recognition of his expertise and service as resource speaker in the alternative class program of Dynamism and Doubts, Understanding China's New Silk Road Initiatives and Southeast Asian Countries' Differential Responses, held on November 12, 2021, given this 12th of November 2021 at Ateneo de Nava University, City of Naga, Philippines. Signed, Mr. Rodolfo S. B. Vertus Jr., Director, Office of Student Affairs, Ms. Janet B. Badong Badilla, Executive Director for Mission and Identity, Dr. Alfredo C. Pabay, Vice President for Higher Education, and Father Robert E. N. Rivera of the Society of Jesus University President. Okay, thank you so much again for being part of this event, which would not be possible without you, sir. And to our participants of this ACP webinar, please do not forget to fill out the evaluation form to receive your certificate, which we will be flashing and forwarding the link here and in the chat box. Please make sure that you are writing the correct information. Again, we are grateful for your participation and we hope to see you all in future ACP webinars or workshops. Once again, I am Jech Audal, and it has been my pleasure to be your host for today. This ends our talk of Dynamism and Doubts, Understanding China's New Silk Road Initiatives and Southeast Asian Countries' Differential Responses. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you sa lahat.
Thank you so much po, sir.
I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Change